you are on F1 visa and you probably start to feel demotivated, discouraged, that there's no realistic path for you and probably there's no way for you to build a full-fledged startup slash company in United States just because of your immigration. But actually, I've got some good news for you. You can actually start your company on F1 visa, and not only just that, you can also sponsor yourself on OPT, STEM OPT, and even your H1B through that very company. Now, that is why I'm assuming you click the video, and I hope to break it down. You're not alone. I actually interviewed 2 international students. I did a podcast with them who have pulled this off. They formed their company while they were on F1 visa. Not only just that, they also got their OPT, and one of them actually even got their H1B approved through their own very company. So in this video, I'm going to break it down step by step exactly how you can do this for yourself. If you're new to my channel, my name is Yudi, and about 11 years ago, I was in your shoes as well as an international student on F1 visa. I've been working in a tech industry for almost 9 years now, and I've been a hiring manager as well. On this channel, we dive into everything related to studying in United States and building a successful career and life here. Before we get into the details, if you're an Indian international student or working professional, then I'm sure one of the things that you're doing is sending money back to your family or friend back in India. In last 10 years, I have been using multiple platforms, and most of them either have lower conversion rate or a higher fees. But then I found Krobo Money 5 months ago, who's also kindly sponsoring this video. And trust me when I say this, they provide by far the best conversion rates in the market. Don't take my word for it. You can actually go and test it out yourself. So they have a 0 fees, even if you want to send as little as $50, which won't be possible with other platforms. They are super secure, and they will even refund your money if anything goes wrong. To make this even better, Krobo Money is giving a special $25 Amazon gift card if you use my special link, which will be in the description, and make a transaction over $500. Again, I'll put all of this details in the description below. Now, let's get into the video. By the way, I'm not an immigration lawyer, so this should not be an legal advice. Please hire an immigration lawyer if you're going through this process. Assuming you have figured out the product market fit and your ideal customer profile and all of it, you are ready to take your startup to the next level, which means you need to register your company or incorporate your company. There are different types of incorporation like LLC, S Corp, and most founders or most startup founders will go with Delaware C Corp. It's a standard choice because 1, investors prefer it, and 2, it will separate your personal finance, business's finances in a different way just by registering an entity, and ideally people go with C Corp. How do you do this? You can handle this incorporation using services like LegalZoom, Stripe Atlas, or Zen Businesses. You could also hire a lawyer and they will type it out, the bylaws for you and all of it. You could do that. But I think both the founders that I spoke to, they just use one of these third-party tools to register the company.
I got into Antler. Antler was a startup accelerator. So it's not a startup accelerator, it's a founder in residence program. So it
Okay.
helps founders to accelerate and build their startup in 6 weeks' time. You can go find co-founders, build with them, connect with people, connect with mentors, and all of it.
Okay.
So because I got into this program and my OPT started, I registered Travana as a company, Delaware C Corp.
Super simple, and now they have a amazing documentation with AI and all of it, so you can do this everything online. After you have incorporated your company, another important thing that you want to do is get EIN, which is employer identification number. This is provided by IRS. Now, why do you need a EIN? This is like simply SSN, what you know how you have your SSN and everything is tracked through your SSN. Business cannot use your SSN. Well, technically you can use your own SSN, but since we want to separate out and that way you don't have any liabilities, you want to have company's SSN. In this case, that is EIN, which is employer identification number. And through that, you will either pay yourself, the payroll will go, the taxes will go, when you do the invoices, everything will run through EIN. Another thing that you want to do is open a bank account, business account ideally, which you will obviously use EIN to start your account. And this is again very, very important that you want to separate out your personal account and your business account, keep it separate. That way everything is super clean for USCIS and future payments and all of it, which we will talk about it in a minute. Payroll is going to be the key element, especially when you're trying to prove that you can pay yourself a salary on OPT and H1B. So that's why it is important to have this separate. One of the founders I interviewed, they actually waited to incorporate the company until they got their EAD card, because they wanted to, make sure not blur the lines that you're already starting to work on your startup without having an like an exact authorization, which is employment EAD card for your OPT. So you could also do that, but simply registering it, that's a gray line. This is where you want to talk to immigration lawyer. Can you just register the company and not work for it? Or should you just wait until your EAD card arrives and then you officially register it? Okay, now is the meat and the important question. How do you exactly work for your own startup while you are on F1 visa? So obviously, we'll talk about OPT. You have graduated and the first thing that you do is get an OPT. This is a 12 months of post completion. So you obviously have to have your EAD card in hand, and you will be the employee of your startup, which is your startup. First thing you want to do is notify your DSO. This is like one of the most common mistakes I've seen is like, even if people are volunteering or doing an NGO work, they don't tell DSO. No, you need to tell DSO that, hey, here's my company and this is the role that I'm going to be doing. This is, this is the paycheck if you're going to get paid by yourself and so on and so forth. So you want to provide the company name, EIN, short description of how your role aligns with the field of study. For the first year of OPT, your company doesn't have to be e-verified, but let's assume you actually get a lot of traction and you want to continue working on this and you even want OPT extension. This is where it will get tricky and trickier. You want to first have your company e-verified. It's a simple process through an online way. You can do it. It's a quick one. It's not complicated. But the complication starts with the employer-employee relationship, which is one of the eligibility criteria for your STEM extension. You obviously have to apply for STEM extension and you get another EAD card. And this is where, if you are the founder, you need to develop some form of structure where technically either you have a co-founder or a board of directors. They can fire you in a easy way to put it.
So the three major rules or things that you have for your STEM extension is that one is employee-employer relationship. Two is that you should be paid. Three is that the company should be e-verified. I have an employee-employer relationship with my board. I have shown my board as my employees and employers, and they have an authority to fire me. And they will create a training program for me that I will show on my I-983. Right.
And how do you find the board members?
Because they are my co-founders. So all three of us are the board.
Oh, okay. So that's it. There's no external advisor
No,
board or something
no.
like that.
Yeah.
So this way it shows USCIS that you're not self-serving and you are an employee, and potentially others have control to fire you. This develops an employee-employer relationship. Again, there are ways to work around this and not work around it, but you can work this solution. You want to talk to immigration lawyer and they will help you understand all of this. All right, so let's talk about money. You have to pay yourself, but for the first year of OPT, it can be unpaid. You don't need to pay yourself. You just need to document the 20 hours of the work or more, and it needs to be related to education. But in the STEM extension, it needs to be paid. And one of the founder I spoke, he initially paid himself a modest salary, just enough to cover living expenses, so he could show USCIS that, here are the legitimate pay stubs. Quick sidebar, that multiple employments, it's not necessary that you only work for your startup. You could have multiple employments if you want to, as long as they are related to your field of study again, and you need to notify your DSO. But the real question is, how do you pay yourself, and how can you even afford to pay yourself if you are all starting like a startup on a bootstrap? Well, this is where the magic of investments and angel investments and raising funds starts for the entrepreneurs, I guess. Okay, here is a tip that I got from Rohan, who is one of the founder. He said, like, friends and family round is the most underrated thing that a lot of people don't actually explore that. So what does that mean? Many entrepreneurs can just go to their friends and family who wants to support you in the vision and in the energy that you have. And maybe you can raise like a small round from friends and family with giving them a safe note. Again, this is an entrepreneur startup world, which is basically an agreement that converts into an equity down the line, so you don't have to have a valuation early on.
Says that this person has given me $10,000, and when I reach a point of valuation, it's called priced round, or a round where your company valuation is for the first time defined
Hmm.
by IRS. That's when you say that you will get equity for the worth of your money at a 30% discounted rate. That means a 30 or
Yeah.
20 or whatever. That means for
Hmm.
$10,000 that you're investing now, in 1 year, when I get to a price strong point, that will get converted to equity of $13,000 because I gave you a 30% equity.
Another thing I want to touch on payment is for the STEM extension. I think you can also pay in terms of equity and all of it. I'm trying not to get into that details, but please let me know if you are interested in all of this topic and want me to go even deeper. I'm happy to make content. This is the first time I'm trying to get outside of like job hunting and university. So if this is interesting, let me know. I have so many other founders who are international, who are immigrants, and we have lawyer as well. So we can do more content on this. I just don't know if you're interested. So let me know in the comment section as well. All right. So after friends and family, you could also do something called angels, angel round or small angels. If you have a solid product, a prototype, and maybe initial customer and initial traction, a lot of angels would be willing to put $25,000, even $10,000 to $100,000. That's another way that will help you by paying your salary. Another thing that you could do is startup grants and competition. Now, a lot of universities actually will have an entrepreneur cell. Obviously, it is in a university's interest to support you, and because they want to showcase that, look, our student is an entrepreneur, they started a company. Another thing universities could also support with giving you resources like co-working space and entrepreneurship network, and potentially even accounting services and so on and so forth. But regardless, there are a bunch of other competitions where and grants available for startups.
It's just 120K, but a standard Techstars deal. Like, so any Techstar company would get 120K dollars for a company to start up and stuff. So
Okay. So if you are someone like that, please seek out those startup grants as well, because then you can raise smaller money, because every single money in this case will be helpful to put it in the business, and then you can pay yourself. Another most common one in the startup world is Y Combinator. So these are accelerator programs. There is Techstar, there is Entler, there are multiple other accelerator program. Y Combinator is one of the most common one.
you apply to certain accelerators, like Y Combinator is one, Techstars is one, 500 Global is another accelerator. So there are like bunch of accelerators that you apply to.
So they often invest in early stage startups where you have proved the product, you have product market fit, you have some customers already, users already. I don't know, they might even do it based on the idea and proof of concept, but essentially they will take smaller equity, maybe 5 to 10%. Again, I don't know the details. So either way, you want to have a solid documentation from where all the places you have received the fund in the company, and how is your company paying you. And you want to create a payroll system, whether you do it a QuickBooks online, or there are several other free tools as well. But essentially, you want to keep your books clean when it comes to finances, because you want to have a clear showcase that whether for H1B or OPT, you want to show that this is how I'm getting paid, this is the monthly salary, and here is the pay stubs. So keep the records clear. All right, now we have talked about OPT, we've talked about how you pay yourself. Let's talk about H1B, which is probably the next step. And yes, it is possible. In fact, with the latest USCIS regulation, you can even be the majority of stockholders. Again, I've made a whole video with a lawyer. I'll put the link in the description, so you should go and check out on that. But let's talk about how can you do this for yourself. First thing first is lottery and specialty occupation. One, this is where you do want to hire a law firm or a lawyer who understands how H1B But essentially, to file for a lottery, you don't have to have a lot of money. It's, I think, $250 or so, rough figure, maybe $300. But you can put yourself lottery. Your startup is your employer and you are the employee. You have to prove that your role is a specialty occupation that requires, for instance, either a software engineer with a master's in computer science, some way to prove that eligibility criteria. Another thing that you will have to do is prevailing wage, which is one of the requirements for H1B. You have to pay at least the prevailing wage that is set by Department of Labor for your title and the area that you're living in. So if you've raised funding, you should have enough to justify your salary. And again, another thing that we have already discussed this in the STEM extension part of the OPT, but employer-employee relationship. You need to have either a co-founder or a board of directors who basically can demonstrate that they have an authority over you and they can fire you, which establishes an employer-employee relationship. There's a lot more complexity in it, but that's a gist of it. Now, here's what happened with Leela, who is one of the founders who I've interviewed during the podcast. He actually got laid off from the company that he was working on. Then he started his own startup. He filed for H1B through his own company. He had provided all the records. He made sure that everything is super clean, investor statements and clear organizational effort, like everything was super clean. And guess what? It actually got approved with some hiccups, but it did get approved. He has H1B and that's cool. And that proves that you can also do this for yourself. Now, here are the 5 common mistakes that you should avoid if you're planning to go on this route. Number 1 is unauthorized employment. Don't start working day-to-day operations until you receive your OPT EAD card, because that will start violating your F1 status. So you don't want to do that. Number 2, no salary, no proof. Again, we have talked about this. Keep everything clean, records, and you want to have pay stubs and everything. Make sure that you do this. First year of OPT, you're fine, but STEM OPT and H1B, you absolutely want to be very, very careful with money and payment, because that is one of the criteria and you don't want to mess that. Number 3 is poor documentation. Again, like I've said, keep your organization books clean. Have from marketing thing, board meeting notes, time management, how much time are you doing? If you get an RFE, all of this will be very, very helpful if you have kept everything documented. So use a good organization and documentation skills in this case. 4th mistake is ignoring DSO reporting. You absolutely want to keep your DSO informed, whether it is for OPT or STEM OPT, whether you're traveling, just to make sure your service record is active and everything is fine and you're running. Even if your startup is successful and making a lot of money, everything is good, but you want to make sure your DSO is completely informed. And finally, one of the most important criteria for STEM OPT and H1B is maintaining employer-employee relationship does exist. Missing that will be biggest mistake and you could get in a lot of trouble. So make sure there is some authority over you that they can fire you and all of it. So you want to figure out the company structure on however you want to do it, by giving the majority of the stock, or you can still keep it, but they have the authority to take you out and so on and so forth. All right. I know this was a lot of information. This was an overview. If you are interested in this topic, please let me know in the comment section. And I know that there's a lot of people, you have this entrepreneur vibe and you want to solve problems for people and serve customers and users. So there is a path for you. You just have to start figuring out how to do it. I'm happy to answer any questions you have. Link in the description. Also, we do live sessions with lawyers. You can come there and ask your questions over there as well. I also have a newsletter community where I share all of this detail and insights, putting it into a weekly email insight. I'll put the link in the description as well. But until our next one, keep smiling and keep hustling. You gotta hustle every single day.